All right, Saagar, what's on your radar?
Well, we're several days into the Hunter Biden email story at this point, and one thing is becoming absolutely clear, that the story surrounding the media and big tech's handling of the story is actually a lot more interesting than the story itself. Yes, we learned some marginal details about Hunter and Biden's corruption, but not enough to really change the game at this point. What we've learned instead is how thoroughly the 2016 election and Russiagate have destroyed the brains of those at the highest echelons of power, namely big tech, the media, and the mainstream Democratic Party. We covered in depth here just how insane the standards set forth by Twitter and Facebook are in their handling of the Biden story. They essentially declared that important stories like the Pentagon Papers or Edward Snowden's publishing of NSA secrets would be eligible for censoring on their platform if they felt like it. You can't go back from that. It was a cross the Rubicon moment, which showed just how much they can interfere our elections if they want to. But the media has decided that as much as the big tech beclown themselves in the handling of this story, that they're going to one-up them. Now, I'm sure many of you don't even know what's in these Hunter Biden emails, so let me recap the chain of events. Hunter allegedly dropped his laptop off for repair at a Delaware shop, according to the owner who forgot about his laptop. Then, the owner somehow got in touch with Rudy Giuliani, who held these emails for publication until October for maximum political impact. That's the official story. As I've said here all along, that is sketchy as hell. But the central question, journalistically, remains incredibly simple. Are the emails true or not? If they are, it's a story. If they're not, that's also a story. And to this point, it's been several days since these emails have come to light, and no representative of Hunter Biden has denied their veracity. The Joe Biden campaign has not denied their veracity, and Fox News has confirmed at least one of the emails by speaking to one of the people involved on the email chain. So, what does that lead you to conclude? And yet, not one major journalistic organization has sought to do this yet. Instead, they've resorted to reporting on other news organizations to try and smear the emails themselves instead of report on their substance. The New York Times' first story about the emails wasn't about the emails. It was about Joe Biden's reaction. It was about how people inside the New York Post had doubts about publishing the emails themselves because of the sketchy chain of custody around them. And look again. I agree these things are sketchy. If someone brought them to me, I would have done a lot more to work to authenticate them before publishing them in the first place. But now that they are out there, it actually makes our tasks as journalists much easier. Ask the Biden campaign and Hunter Biden. If they're not true, they can provide evidence, and then we can all make fun of the New York Post, of Rudy Giuliani, and of Steve Bannon for having a harebrained scheme to blow up in their face. Except, as I mentioned, people have asked the Biden campaign and Hunter, and there hasn't been any response yet. The only response to date from the Biden campaign has been that a purported meeting alleged in a Hunter Biden email surrounding his employment with a Ukrainian energy company was never on Biden's official schedule. But they did not rule out that such a meeting has taken place. So the central claim in the emails themselves is not denied by Joe Biden, and it is not denied by Hunter Biden. To the extent that Biden has been asked about this story, here's what happened. He got angry at a reporter for a totally fair question and refused to answer.
And Mr. Biden, what is your response to the New York Post story about your son, sir?
I know you'd ask it. I have no response. It's another smear campaign. Right up your alley. They're the questions you always ask.
And yet, you wouldn't know any of this if you read mainstream sources. All you would know is that people inside the New York Post had some reservations about publishing the story. Okay, I mean, that's fine. People inside newsrooms should always have reservations. But now that the emails have been published for several days, and the Biden campaign hasn't denied a single one of them, shouldn't we all admit that they're true and move on to explaining why or why not they're important? No. Instead, Mediaite published another story in a similar vein that Fox News News Division had passed on reporting the emails first, provided by Rudy Giuliani over credibility concerns. Again, the implication is the same, that the sketchy chain of events was so bad, even Fox News passed on it. And actually, I think the story looks good for Fox, but it raises the same question that I keep posing to you. It's great that they had reservations, but now that they are out there, are they true or not? Nobody in the mainstream media seems interested in pursuing an answer to this question, because I think we all know the answer. If you think that the Biden campaign would quash this thing the moment it was published and prove that they are fake, then you're out of your mind. And it leaves us with the last excuse that the mainstream media knows exceptionally well to push when times are especially tough. You guessed it, it was Russia the whole time. CNN, of course, led the charge, reporting, quote, U.S. authorities investigating if recently published emails are tied to Russian disinformation effort targeting Biden. Before USA Today and a host of other papers, they then reported, based on one source within the intelligence community, that, quote, federal authorities are investigating whether the material supplied to the Post by Rudy Giuliani is part of a smoke bomb of disinformation pushed by Russia. Set off, of course, a frenzy by Democratic officials like Adam Schiff and congressmen and the media talking heads, pointing to the obvious that this all has to be Russian disinformation, right? And just like that, the flip switched based off this single anonymous report, and it reached the highest levels of television news when Margaret Brennan parroted the talking point on CBS's Face the Nation over the weekend and yesterday morning. Here's a clip from the news package that ran on the Today Show towards millions put together by Andrea Mitchell. Let's take a listen.
To that point, there's been a lot of speculation that this week, some of the information about Joe Biden's son Hunter that is circulated in tabloid in the New York Post may be the result of a hack and dump operation. This is speculation at this point, that it could have come from Russian military hacking of a Ukrainian gas company where Hunter Biden served. Do you see any justification for that speculation at this point?
Margaret, I don't know the specifics of this case. Again, my view would be, let's let it play out. Let's investigate it. Let's get some factual evidence. Let's get the metadata. And let's see if this is accurate or not. I'm just not in a position really to speculate.
Well, it's being compared to the hack and dump operation that happened, as you know, back in 2016. A lot of Democrats alleging that it is that.
Experts say the emails cannot be authenticated. Some may have been altered or are fake.
We have no idea whether or not the emails are legitimate, but this whole operation looks right out of the Kremlin playbook. Hack and dump.
Again, these are not CNN pundits. These are two longtime journalists with platforms that reach tens of millions. And it's a conspiracy theory that lived all through the weekend until it crashed against the wall yesterday when the Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, definitively came out and said that there was zero evidence whatsoever to say that any of this is Russian disinformation.
Let me be clear. The intelligence community doesn't believe that because there's no intelligence that supports that. And we have shared no intelligence with Chairman Schiff or any other member of Congress that Hunter Biden's laptop is part of some Russian disinformation campaign. It's simply not true. And this is exactly what I said I would stop when I became the Director of National Intelligence. And that's people using the intelligence community to leverage some political narrative. And in this case, apparently Chairman Schiff wants anything against his preferred political candidate to be deemed as not real and is using the intelligence community or attempting to use the intelligence community to say there's nothing to see here. Don't drag the intelligence community into this. Hunter Biden's laptop is not part of some Russian disinformation campaign, and I think it's clear that the American people know that.
There we have it. Media began by cheering on big tech censorship of this story. When they couldn't get proof that the emails were fake, they tried to insinuate that they were by reporting on newsroom drama within the New York Post or Fox. When that failed, they fell back on their so-called Kremlin ratings playbook. But this time around, the rug has been yanked from the bottom of all three. And it's just incredible, Crystal. I mean, there you go. They're like, oh, it's sketchy. And again, I think it's sketchy as hell, too. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some crazy middlemen. But the central question, journalistically, is it true or is it not true?
That's it.
And haven't gotten an answer to that one. From the Biden campaign, you can see they get mad at reporters. Mm-hmm. I mean, they won't even rule out that such a meeting took place.
Yeah.
They won't rule it out. They're like, well, it wasn't on the official schedule. Well, who cares? I mean, do you think there's a lot of important meetings presidents and vice presidents take that aren't on the official schedule? This is crazy because this is the Times reporting on the Post and then Mediaite reporting on Fox. And you have all these people and not one of them has any ounce of curiosity on whether these things are true. While you and I were talking, Politico story comes out. More than 50 senior intelligence officials have signed a letter outlining their belief that these Hunter emails quote, has all the classic earmarks of Russian information operation. What does that even mean? That doesn't mean anything.
These people are such weasels.
Yes.
And all you have to do is say those magic words, like whoever the dude was that you played the clip from where he says, this looks right out of the Kremlin playbook. The minute you say those magic words, everybody's brain shuts off, and it's just away. You don't have to offer one shred of evidence that that is the case. Okay, and let's take it one step further. And this is a point that Glenn Greenwald, who of course has been all over the story in a very effective way, has been making, which is, okay, let's even say that this was like planted by Russians. If the emails are in fact accurate, you should still report on them. And if the shoe was on the other foot, and Chinese hackers planted some information, accurate information about the president that was damning for him, do you think
they'd report it all?
That these news organizations would hesitate for even a fraction of a second before they put this out? No, of course not. I mean, you look at the Trump tax returns, it's a good analog. We don't know exactly how they were acquired and how they came to be in the hands of the New York Times, but the origins were likely illegal, right? This is probably whoever took these and put them out to the New York Times, put them in public, something I support, by the way.
Yeah, fine with me. He's the president.
But you can't be like, oh, we have to concern ourselves with making sure that all of these hacks and leaks are 100% above board or else we can't report on them. A lot of the most significant reporting in modern times has come from sketchy sources or methods that were not 100% above board. So even if we granted them that this was a Russian disinformation plot and Russians were involved or whatever you want to say, if the emails are true, they still should be reported on. And I'm with you. I don't even think they're that important.
No.
I don't think they're that interesting. I don't think that they say anything particularly like groundbreaking or new. They fill in some, some more texture and context, whatever. Good. People should know about that before they go and vote. But these news organizations being so much more interested in the reporting on their fellow journalists and that side and how this all came to be, rather than trying to dig into the veracity of this and what it says and whether it's important or not, is very telling.
No, it's incredible. And look, we actually have proof that they will report on Russian disinformation all they want. The dossier, the Steele dossier, the people who were publishing all that stuff were sketchy as hell. Glenn Simpson and all of them had all these contracts, connections to so many Russian intelligence sources. And again, whatever. Like that's actually my position on it, which is that the sketchy information, you put it out there, it's in the public interest, let's find out whether it's true or not. They had no problems. They pushed it for years and years and years. They had the whole Mueller investigation, Russiagate, that gaslit half the country into believing this nonsense and then never admitted that it was false. And this is the same thing, which is, it can be sketchy, but having dealt with some classified information and put some leaked information out there, the people who want to put this stuff out there are not, let's say, sane in many cases. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. And look at Edward Snowden. He's a pretty weird dude. I mean, go watch him on Joe Rogan. Does that make the information that he's put out there any less interesting? No. Or even true? No. It's true.
He's, I mean, I think that's well said. And the justification Ben Smith gave at the time, who was at BuzzFeed, making the decision to publish the dossier, was like, this is information that's being spread around official Washington and is informing elite decision making. And I think the public has a right to know. And I actually support that view. I think,
did a lot of damage, but in retrospect, I think was probably right.
Put it out there. If this is informing elite conversation, if this is the basis for decisions that are being made by Adam Schiff or the intel community or whatever, I always err on the side of the public should have that knowledge ultimately. But when it comes to information like this, the way that, and again, I don't even think these emails are all that interesting or like important or relevant. If they were actually going to invent something, I would think that they would invent something that was a little more like, a little more like
legit pay to play.
Right, like a little more smoking gun, have a chance to really change the election. I think they're sort of deluding themselves that this is going to be a real game changer at this point if they actually think that. But look, put it out there, figure out if it's true. That's your job as a journalist. Don't try to invent some like Russian disinformation thing based again on zero evidence.
All right, I'm looking forward to your radar next, Crystal.